I didn't even recognize myself at first. You ever walk past something so familiar your brain skips it, like background noise? That's what it felt like until my eyes caught the name. My name. Bold letters across a missing person poster, taped crookedly to the bus stop glass. At first, I laughed. Thought it was some idiot's idea of a prank. The picture was mine, same jacket, same tired eyes, but the date underneath said last seen, October 22nd. That's tomorrow. Tomorrow. I remember checking the time, half expecting someone with a camera to jump out yelling gotcha. But the street was empty. Just the sound of the wind tugging at paper edges, and my face staring back at me. I ripped one down just to prove it wasn't real. The paper felt warm, like it had just come off a printer. You'll understand soon why I wish I'd never reported it. Why some things aren't meant to be verified. I folded it into my pocket, pretending none of it mattered. Just a glitch, right? A weird coincidence. I thought it was just a mistake. Until the poster changed overnight. Before the poster, my life was aggressively ordinary. I woke up to the same alarm tone I'd had since college, that shrill, synthetic chirp that makes you hate mornings before they even start. My apartment smelled faintly of burnt coffee and damp carpet. Mr. Callahan, my landlord, said he'd fix the leak next week. He'd been saying that since March. I worked at a little printing shop downtown, the kind that mostly does menus and church bulletins. My coworker Jess kept things tolerable. She had this dry sense of humor that could make even the jammed copier sound like a punchline. We'd take lunch breaks behind the store, leaning against dumpsters, talking about nothing. Sometimes she'd joke that this town eats people alive, but in the boring way. The town itself never changed. Same cracked sidewalks, same posters for bake sales and missing cats, and the same missing person board in front of the post office. Everyone pretended not to look at it, but they always did. There's a thing about this town, about the way faces stay on those boards long after the police stop caring. Some of them fade into ghosts of paper, ink melting into gray smudges. Others stay too clear, like the weather refuses to touch them. I'd walk past that board every morning, coffee in hand, barely noticing anymore. Just another ritual in the cycle of monotony. Until one morning, I stopped. I don't know why. Maybe the way the sun hit the glass. Maybe some instinct trying to warn me, because one of those faces used to smile back at me from a mirror. By the next morning, I started seeing them everywhere. One tacked to the diner's bulletin board, another plastered on the lamppost outside the library. Each one was slightly off my face, sharper in some, blurred in others, like a Polaroid left to rot in the sun. And the date. Every single poster had changed. Last seen, October 23rd. Tomorrow. Again. I asked a clerk at the convenience store if they'd noticed the posters. She blinked at me, confused. Posters? What posters? The barista at the coffee shop shrugged the same way. Every face around town was the same indifferent gray, like no one actually saw me. Paranoia clung to my chest. I started photographing them, lining them up on my phone to compare. And that's when I saw it, a tiny QR code in the corner of one poster. Curiosity overrode fear. I scanned it. The screen loaded a page I wish I could unsee, my own obituary. Every detail exact. Birth date, hometown, even a paragraph about my favorite guilty pleasures, coffee too black, horror novels read past bedtime. My hands shook, I tried to scroll down, looking for a glitch, a disclaimer, something to say this was a joke. But the page kept loading more. Forum posts, news snippets, comments by strangers who swore they had seen me vanish. The words felt alive, like they were breathing around me. There was one post, partially deleted, that kept repeating, "The originals don't survive. Don't trust the duplicates." I didn't understand what it meant, but the message stuck in my head like a warning carved in frost. Everywhere I went, the posters seemed to follow, crookedly taped to surfaces that couldn't possibly hold them. My reflection in shop windows felt delayed, hesitant, like even mirrors were afraid of showing me in full. When I tried to screenshot the obituary, my phone shut off, and when it restarted, all my photos were gone. I couldn't stop thinking about the obituary, so I started digging. One late night, fueled by too much coffee and too little sleep, I found a forum tucked into the dark corners of the local web threads filled with rumors, sightings, and warnings. And there it was, a thread titled, "They're Already Here." I clicked. My heart hammered. Every post, every comment described me. Not in vague terms, but in exact moments: what I ate for breakfast, the hoodie I wore yesterday, the tiny scar on my right hand I hadn't shown anyone. Some users claimed to have seen me leave work, walk down streets I hadn't even crossed yet. One comment warned, "Don't follow the reflections. They lead somewhere you won't return." Another simply vanished mid-sentence, leaving a gray rectangle that looked like static. A moderator swooped in immediately, deleting posts that came too close to explaining the rule. I could almost hear their digital gloves scraping across keys. Then there was the banned user, Watcher OX. Every time I refreshed the page, their posts flickered back for a second, just long enough to drop hints about events yet to come, secrets nobody should know. It was impossible, but I swear I saw them type, in real time, notes about what I was doing in my own apartment. If you've seen that thread, don't click the third link, please. I say this even though I did it anyway. The link opened a directory of files, images of me sleeping, images of me walking, images of me typing this very confession. Every file labeled with a timestamp I hadn't lived yet. My sense of reality started to unravel. I couldn't tell if I was reading history or prophecy. And then I saw a username that made my stomach drop because it was mine. I saw them the first time outside the corner store, standing under the flickering streetlight. I froze. The figure looked exactly like me, same hoodie, same scuffed sneakers, the same tiny scar on my right hand, but something was off. The way they tilted their head, the way their eyes lingered too long, it felt wrong. Like a reflection with a life of its own. "You shouldn't have reported it," the double said. Voice low and hollow, but perfectly in sync with mine. "Reported what?" I croaked, though I knew the answer wouldn't make sense. "Yourself," they said, smiling too wide, too slow, like the corners of their mouth knew secrets I didn't. I blinked, trying to convince myself it was a trick of the light. But the street smelled the same, felt the same. The world hadn't paused. Only them. Only me. Only. Every instinct screamed to run, but I was rooted. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Do you even know?" They stepped closer. Their movements mirrored mine, but just slightly off, like watching your shadow act independently. "Everyone missing here." They saw me first. A twin. A warning. A replacement. "You're just late." I swallowed, trying to grasp it. You're saying everyone had one of you before disappearing? They nodded slowly. Some never come back. Some stay behind. You'll understand soon. I stumbled backward, heart pounding, trying to ground myself in reason. My apartment, my job, my life, all of it felt fragile, suddenly uncertain. I thought about all those missing faces in town, how the posters never came down. Were they waiting? I know how this sounds, I said aloud, though no one else was there. Maybe you've seen a double of yourself too? Tell me I'm not alone in this. The figure didn't answer, just tilted their head, expression eerily calm. Then they vanished into the shadows, as if swallowed by the night itself. I ran, the echoes of their footsteps matching mine in some sick, twisted rhythm. My lungs burned, my mind screamed for logic, for escape. But when I got home, the lights were already on. I opened the door to my apartment, and everything looked normal at first. The same peeling wallpaper, the same cluttered kitchen counter, the same faint smell of burnt coffee lingering from yesterday. But then I noticed the clock on the wall spinning backward, the hands ticking like they were mocking me. Photos on the shelves weren't right either. Faces blurred and reversed, smiles stretched into something unfamiliar. Jess was in one, leaning against me, but her eyes were hollow black pits staring back. I shook my head, trying to ground myself. This isn't real, I whispered. I pulled the lease from the folder on my table. My name wasn't there. Only Mr. Callahan's signature and a blank tenant line. When I called him, he answered normally but laughed when I asked about my apartment. You already turned in the keys, remember? You've been gone a while. I stumbled into my bedroom and froze. My laptop was on, a single file open. I clicked it. The video that played made my stomach knot. It was me, sleeping in my bed right now, tonight time-stamped down to the second. My chest tightened. I spun around, expecting someone to be behind me. The room was empty. Even Jess's voice came to me through a text I hadn't sent. You need to leave. They're already inside. The message made no sense. I hadn't typed it. She hadn't sent it. And yet, there it was. The apartment felt alive, watching me, waiting. The mundane had warped into something malignant. Every shadow seemed sharper, every creak in the floor louder, deliberate. I wanted to leave, to run, but my legs felt heavy, weighed down by a dread I couldn't name. I didn't sleep that night. I just watched the door waiting for me to come in. I needed answers. I met Jess at the diner under the pretense of grabbing coffee, but she didn't smile this. Coffee, but she didn't smile this. Time. Her eyes darted nervously. You've seen it too, haven't you? She whispered, leaning close. She pulled out a stack of old police reports, yellowed and fraying. Every year, the first Monday of October, a list of disappearances appeared. Not missing kids, not lost hikers, ordinary people. Names that vanished from their homes, jobs, lives, leaving only shadows behind. They call it Missing Mondays, Jess said, voice low. Reality resets for the ones who've already gone. The town, it keeps them anchored. She tapped one of the reports. See these posters? They're not just warnings. They're anchors. If someone destroys them, the person disappears faster. Permanently. I swallowed hard, trying to picture it. My own face on a poster, tied to a day I hadn't lived yet. My pulse thundered in my ears. She leaned back, shaking her head. Some people think it's a curse. Some think it's a safety net. Either way, there's one poster you're not supposed to touch. It holds everything. The originals vanish into shadows. The doubles, they collect the originals. The room seemed smaller, the walls pressing closer. I tried to grasp it, but the logic of it twisted like smoke through my mind. All those missing people, the ones whose faces never came down from the boards, were part of a pattern. First, a twin appears, then the originals fade. Then nothing. Jess pulled a folded newspaper clipping from the stack. The photo was faded, but the shapes were unmistakable. A row of missing posters, faces perfectly intact, except one that seemed to move. They say if you stare too long, you'll see your own eyes blink back at you before it happens, she whispered. I ran my fingers over the crumpled pages, heart hammering. And the doubles? I asked. They keep the originals. Sometimes they step into our world. Sometimes they wait. Her eyes met mine, urgent and terrified. I left the diner trembling, clutching the stack of reports. Every corner of town felt alien, every street heavier with unspoken rules. I needed to find the poster, the original, the one that tied me to this nightmare. When I finally found the original poster, it wasn't hanging, it was breathing. Reality began to splinter. Clocks looped backward, then forward, refusing to settle. My reflection in the bathroom mirror hesitated, lips moving before I did, eyes lagging behind my own. The city outside my window felt wrong, streets stretched too long. Streetlights flickered in impossible sequences, and whispers drifted from empty alleyways. People I knew began addressing the double as me. Jess waved at it, smiled at it, even hugged it. I tried to correct her, my voice trembling. That's not me. But the words sounded hollow, swallowed by some unseen force. Every step I took was mirrored or anticipated by the double, always one heartbeat ahead. I understood then. I was becoming the missing one. The original me, the one the town remembered, was fading. Every thought, every memory I clung to, felt like smoke in my fingers. Panic clawed at my chest, sharp and relentless. I confronted the double in the center of the street, under the same flickering light where we first met. Its smile was calm, almost compassionate. One of us had to stay, it whispered. The words brushed against my mind like ice. I lunged, hands shaking, and tore the final poster from the lamppost. The paper's edges burned my fingers. The street wavered. My body flickered, first my hands, then my arms, then the rest of me. I felt myself unravel, like static devouring flesh. The double reached for me, and I felt its hand pass through mine, solid yet unreal. Everything collapsed into white noise. Time looped endlessly. Shadows danced against walls that weren't there. And then nothing. When I opened my eyes, the world seemed calm again. The streets were still, the sky clear. But something was off. The air held a weight, a subtle wrongness, like the town itself was holding its breath. I moved through it quietly, trying to feel myself whole, but even now, I could sense the echo of the other me lingering, a reminder that what I lost hadn't disappeared, it had just stepped aside. Everything is quiet now, too quiet. The streets look familiar, but my hands tremble as I pass the same corner store where it all began. The sky has the same gray wash I remember, but the smell of coffee is sharper, more metallic, and Jess doesn't notice me the same way. She smiles, but it isn't for me. I tell myself everything is fine. The posters are gone, or at least, I think they are. Every mirror reflects the room properly. Clocks tick forward, and the phone doesn't die in my hand anymore. Yet the apartment feels hollow. Certain details evade me. The placement of my keys, the sound of my own footsteps, the exact texture of the hoodie I wore that night. It's as if I've stepped into someone else's life, carrying the memories of the original, but missing the essence. My voice sounds the same, but the thoughts behind it twitch with dissonance. Sometimes I catch myself saying things I don't remember thinking, reacting before I even process. If you see my poster, don't take it down. Let it hang, even if it stares back at you. Some truths are safer preserved in ink and paper, anchored in the world just enough to keep the wrong ones from crossing over. I walk past the familiar streets, the shops, the empty bus stop. Everything seems ordinary, yet I feel the subtle hum of a presence that isn't mine, a life that should have been. I am someone else, carrying the shape and voice of the original. And I know, even as I speak to you now, that the person who began this story, the one who first found the poster, is gone. All that remains is the echo, the replacement, narrating a memory that isn't fully mine, warning anyone who listens that some faces should never return. I need to warn you, listen carefully. There's a copy of the real poster hidden online. A file, an image, something that shouldn't exist. If you find the image file, don't open it. It updates, changes, waits. Some say it shows the next person who will vanish. Some say it shows you. If you've ever seen a poster like mine, comment. Leave your theories. Tell me what you've noticed. Patterns, faces, names that linger longer than they should. The forum is still out there, threads whispering secrets that no one should read. But if you look, be cautious. I've started keeping track of coordinates tucked inside old file streets, bus stops, abandoned buildings. Each one is linked to someone who disappeared. And now I can't tell if I'm tracking them or if they're tracking me. The next case is already beginning. You might see hints in news clips, in comments, in the way the wind moves through this town. I won't be there to explain it. Only this voice remains, warning, observing, narrating what I cannot stop. Remember this. Reality is fragile here. Shadows remember faces that light forgets. And by the time you finish this video, my poster will probably already have your face.